नमस्कार।
मुंबई धमाकों के शिकार
From India shining
लेकिन ब्रेक के बाद देखिए
मूविंग ऑन
across the metros.
Do you believe what you see and hear on that black box in your room? Are your opinions influenced by what you view and listen to on the small screen? Does television impact your life in ways you are not even aware of?
It's all the battle for eyeballs, the need for your screen to buzz all the time.
India is the only country in the world with over 36 news channels on television. What differentiates one from the other? Importantly, do all these television channels purvey news and information in a responsible manner?
Ethics? What ethics? Most television channels in India don't give a damn about it.
A nation of more than 1 billion people with millions of different opinions, countless stories to be told every minute, many untold, some that cannot be told but need to be told.
See, what's happening is television channels are getting into the entertainment sector. News is being sold as soap.
Views, reviews, interviews, actions, reactions, interaction. Get there first, reach them before anyone else. Hot of the oven, break the news.
जब कोई बड़ी घटना होती है तो हम बिजली की स्पीड से, बिजली की रफ्तार से उस खबर तक पहुंचते हैं।
Nothing remains hidden. Nothing stays out of sight. Big Brother is everywhere, watching you. India has become a news-hungry nation. It has 60,000 publications in over 20 languages. All India Radio is the only broadcaster of programs in more than 100 dialects. At present, there is at least one television set for every 10 Indians, more than the number of fixed telephone lines in the country. A remarkable transformation of the media landscape has taken place if one considers the fact that the world's first 24-hour television news channel started broadcasting in 1980, and that as recently as 1991, viewers in India could only watch television channels of the public broadcaster Doordarshan. As television news channels proliferate, a question remains as to the extent to which these channels represent and reflect the realities of the world's largest democracy and one of the most diverse nation states on the planet. Is the explosion of news television in India a consequence of the citizens of the country being a noisy, argumentative and inquisitive lot? In 1975, India became the first country in the world to use satellites for television broadcasts. News and public television came hand in hand. Many still remember the 7:30 evening bulletin on Doordarshan.
नमस्कार, आज के समाचार इस प्रकार हैं।
Those were days when news was read, not anchored. When television only provided information that the government of the day wanted disclosed.
I think even today DD News has a tilt towards the government. If you notice very recently the coverage of the blasts or any terrorist attacks, you will notice that DD never actually covers them. They will report the facts, but the coverage is very limited. They will still go with much more coverage of Sonia Gandhi or of Dr. Manmohan Singh or whoever is the Prime Minister of the time. I think that's still true.
Zee started India's first non-government news channel.
Good evening and welcome to Zee News Bulletin.
In no time at all, satellites over Indian skies were beaming a host of television channels from all over the world. A trickle had become a deluge. India became the only country in the world where for a relatively small amount, varying between $2 and $6 a month, a cable television subscriber could receive anywhere between 30 to over 100 channels, many of them in languages that she or he would not understand. But quantity did not mean quality.
In many ways, I think news was a lot better before we had satellite television. I think one of the biggest problems with satellite television and with all the new technology we have is that it is too easy to do news, and therefore we're getting far too much live coverage which hasn't been properly edited or properly supervised.
Many argue that the multiplicity of television news channels is good for participatory democracy, that this has strengthened citizens' right to information. Others contend that most television channels do not believe in lofty ideals and are only motivated by commercial considerations. It is said that in order to recover their investments, television broadcasters are only interested in earning more advertising revenue. In the process, they care two hoots about their social responsibilities or about creating awareness among viewers.
Number of channels that will be there will depend really on the market. It's in India purely a commercial consideration. Ultimately, in the long run, only the ones with staying power will stay and the rest will drop off.
News business is no charity. This is essentially business, which means money. No news channel across the world runs on charity. They are here to make business, they are here to make money.
Most television news channels are driven by TRPs or television rating points, a measurement of viewership. What is often not talked about is that viewing patterns in over 100 million Indian households are sought to be measured and quantified by less than 10,000 people meters. Despite such a small sample, advertisers commit huge amounts of money to television channels based on imperfect methods of measuring the number of viewers and the quantum of time spent on viewing specific channels.
Well, I think TRP is probably the worst thing that happens to all channels. I mean, it's very sad that one organization with one instrument and with a handful of people, they monitor and regulate the fate of the entire television industry.
You have these boxes placed in certain strategic areas, and on that basis, something like 400 boxes, 4,000 crores rides on it.
To stay ahead in the race, many channels use data in a selective manner to claim that they are better than their rivals. Neither the viewer nor the advertiser is usually in a position to confirm the veracity of these claims and counterclaims.
It's good to be number one. We are number one in English, we are number one in business.
What is number one? What are these figures? We are number one.
हम सबसे आगे हैं और अभी तक सबसे आगे हैं और सबसे आगे रहेंगे भी.
News reporters work under a lot of pressure round the clock, tracking events as they happen and where they take place. They have to work to very short deadlines and fear missing a story that is carried by a competitor. Viewers have to be constantly kept on the edge of their seats, which is hardly an easy task. Consequently, reports are often superficial and spiced up to make them sensational.
There's a crisis of content, as I said. You've got to fill in 24 hours. You're in an extremely competitive market, particularly in Hindi.
Since it is impossible to expect live breaking news that is of great significance to large numbers all the time, broadcasters fall back on the lowest common denominators to sell their channels. Often, this comprises the staple of tabloid journalism: sex and violence, murder and rape. In India, there is a lot of emphasis on the 3 C's: crime, cinema and cricket. Since facts are in themselves considered inadequate to market television programs, these have to be garnished and packaged attractively in the hope that they would sell well. One technique that is commonly used is to attach a tag, breaking news.
You've got viewers who have other things to do. They have about 3 or 4 minutes that they're going to spend of their day on the news. How do you attract them and hook them to your channel? Put a breaking news tag.
I think breaking news is not only being overused, it's broken all records. It would enter the Guinness Book of Records. It's been trivialized, it doesn't mean anything any longer.
Advancements in technology have made it easier for television channels to broadcast events as they happen. At times, however, broadcasters end up showing images of blood and gore that repel viewers. These unedited images of a live broadcast tell their own story.
I think TV news today is under-edited. I think that is the important thing about it. I thought, for instance, after the Bombay blasts and after the Varanasi blasts, the whole thing was hopelessly over-dramatized, and a whole lot of information which had not been properly digested, not been edited at all, was being passed on to the viewers, and there was far too many shots which were being repeated and repeated simply because they were the most bloody of the shots available.
I've seen stories where a woman has died and the cloth has been removed by the journalist just so that a close-up can be taken. There are many such stories. And I'm not saying that that our reporters have not done it also. We sometimes, in a live situation, maybe cross the Lakshman Rekha, in a live situation.
In their rush to be the first with the news, television channels have been known to broadcast stories without verifying facts.
I remember one news item that one school teacher was raped in Agra by her own student. And so much so that the then Chief Minister had to come down to Delhi to talk to the Prime Minister. And there was a whole lot of problem in Agra city. But after 2 days it was found that nothing of that kind happened. But the TV news channel never got back to say that, oh, this did not happen. No? Like this, there are several other cases. We find that the news is not confirmed before it is broadcast.
If an unverified story is broadcast by a television channel, its credibility is bound to be adversely affected. But channels that are quick to put out a story tend to be rather tardy when it comes to apologizing for their mistakes.
Print has a time to go and cultivate sources. A television journalist hasn't. A television journalist has to stand outside the press conference, do the OBs, doesn't have time to mix with the bureaucrats, doesn't have time to mix with the peon who will get him that extra document.
In their desperation to earn advertising revenue, in their desperation to grab eyeballs, today's television channels are willing to stoop to any levels and to hell with ethics. When an individual committed suicide by immolating himself in Patiala, there were large numbers of television cameras who filmed that event. So I asked this question, what were the camera persons, what were the journalists doing? Are they journalists first or are they human beings first? Television channels are sometimes not merely cavalier with facts. They can on occasion be irresponsible. Consider this program on how to make a bomb. A day before this story was put out by a particular channel, a series of bombs ripped through crowded suburban trains in Mumbai, killing more than 180 innocent people.
All this is exaggerated to a great extent that these stories will have such a deep impact on the viewer, that the viewer will be encouraged to make a bomb because you've shown a story. This doesn't happen in real life.
An example of television channels dumbing down audiences is exemplified in the story involving Rakhi Sawant, an actress who was allegedly kissed forcibly by a singer, Mika. Channels went overboard and spent hours on this story, which many would consider trivial to an extreme.
This Mika thing is nothing but frankly trash. My channel also carried it, but then there was no need to blow it up. It was blown out of all proportion, because it has no business to be there in any news channel.
The story of the rescue of a boy named Prince, who had fallen into a well, occupied many hours of television time. The fact that the incident took place near the capital And the fact that it occurred on a Sunday, traditionally considered a lean news day, could have had much to do with the coverage the incident received. Even the Prime Minister's office issued a statement expressing satisfaction that the boy had been rescued.
What our stinger there did, the clever thing, he put a camera down, and when people saw the visuals, immediately our phone lines were jammed. So frankly, it was people pushing the story.
The story of Prince epitomizes the herd mentality that characterizes many television news channels. Once one channel airs a story, others feel obliged to follow for fear of losing viewers. Thousands of children like Prince die each and every month because of accidents. Many more suffer from malnutrition. But are their stories publicized in a similar manner? The answer is a categorical no.
I believe that journalism is increasingly under strain both in terms of its quality and its credibility. I think competition is damaging credibility to a great extent. I think credibility over the years has been affected by a tendency to sensationalize or trivialize news.
The world over, and also in India, crime stories on television are supposed to attract viewers. In recent years, there has been a rash of crime-oriented television programs. Some go to ridiculous lengths, obliterating the difference between fact and fiction in seeking to dramatically recreate incidents of crime. The trend started with a show called India's Most Wanted, a clone of the American program by a similar name. The program was meant to create social awareness, solicit public support against criminals, and assist law enforcing authorities.
हमारी crime prevention team.
The man who started such shows is today willing to concede that much of it was merely a marketing ploy.
Warm good evening to you. Check out what is coming up tonight. Crime में ऐसा मादा है जो कि झिंझोड़ने की ताकत रखता है और बहुत आसानी से अटेंशंस ऑडियंस की ग्रैब करता है. आप किसी के बारे में अच्छी बातें कहें तो आपके कान उस पर ध्यान नहीं देते हैं, लेकिन अगर आप किसी की बुराई करें, कोई गलत काम किसी ने कहीं किया हो, तो आपके कान के एंटीना एकदम खड़े हो जाते हैं और आपका जो अटेंशन का जो इंटेंसिटी है उस कंटेंट पर वो बहुत मजबूती से उस पर काबिज होती है.
क्राइम के प्रोग्राम को दिखाते समय 2-3 एहतियात ज़रूर बरतना चाहिए. एक तो ये कि उसको बहुत ज़्यादा उस तरह से सेंसेशनलाइज करके नहीं पेश करना चाहिए. एक रिपोर्टाज के अंदाज में अगर क्राइम प्रोग्राम को आप पेश करते हैं तो वो हकीकत है, लेकिन अगर आप उसे बहुत ज़्यादा सेंसेशनलाइज करके बहुत ज़्यादा उसमें नमक मिर्च मसाला लगा के पेश करते हैं तो जो आपका पर्पज़ है क्राइम प्रोग्राम दिखाने का, वो पर्पज़ आप कहीं कहीं इसमें डिफीट हो जाएंगे, आप हारते हैं.
आज बस इतना ही. कल फिर उठाएंगे कुछ और क्रिमिनल्स के चेहरों से नकाह.
I think in the context of Hindi journalism, there is a serious crisis of content where you're finding that crime shows and horror shows and reincarnation shows are doing much better than the news per se. In that context, perhaps you could argue that Criminal is a show that has emerged from that kind of mindset that we need to do something different, particularly in the packaging. I would like to believe in defense of Criminal is that we are trying to do a well-packaged show in an extremely cluttered competitive market.
Many news programs on television pander to the basest instincts of viewers while attempting to make the presentation of information entertaining. Superstition is encouraged, and there is no dearth of stories about ghosts and spirits.
All channels, I think, are very clear what viewers want. They want ghost stories, they want crime stories. That's the research. I mean, it's very clear that this is what most of the viewers seem to be wanting. But the challenge is into taking the viewer away from that and getting him to real news.
Television can be downright insensitive while invading the privacy of an individual. A young Muslim woman, Guria, had married twice. She was bearing a child from a second husband when her first husband, a soldier in the Indian Army, returned after a long time, during which period he was believed to be missing in action. Her first husband wanted to remarry Guria.
गुड़िया आरिफ और तौफीक की कहानी अब निर्णायक मोड़ पर पहुंच गई है। पंचायत बैठ गई है, फैसला लिया जाना है कि गुड़िया के गर्भ में पल रहे बच्चे को किसका नाम मिलेगा।
Her story occupied hours of prime time on television. On New Year's Day 2006, Guria died. The television channels that had converted her unusual life into a reality show had by then forgotten her. In the name of investigative journalism, a number of television channels have of late been airing programs based on interviews of people using hidden cameras. The dividing line between public interest and invasion of privacy has been wiped out during certain so-called sting operations that have been shown on television. A woman journalist apparently sought to entice an actor to prove the existence of the casting couch in Mumbai's film industry.
कुछ ऐसे अपराध हैं जो कि मंजर आम पर लाना उनका मुश्किल है, unless until you go with your weapons and to expose them. In Aman Verma's case, in Shakti Kapoor's case, we didn't have any other choice, but we had to go to expose them with the help of these small cameras. And अगर कल को आकर शक्ति कपूर या अमन वर्मा ये कहें कि साहब मेरी जो इंडिविजुअल प्राइवेसी है वो आपने भंग की है, तो ये बहुत ही गलत और बहुत ही गैर जिम्मेदाराना स्टेटमेंट है.
Where bad journalism is concerned, there was the great Shakti Kapoor incident. You know, everybody decried that incident. Nobody promoted or backed that particular sting operation. At the end of the day, how many more of those kind have you seen? None at all.
स्टिंग करना बहुत बड़ी बात नहीं है. इन्वेस्टिगेशन में आपको टाइम देना चाहिए तभी, और मेरे ख्याल से इन्वेस्टिगेशन जर्नलिज्म, इन्वेस्टिगेटिव जर्नलिज्म ज़्यादा मुश्किल है बजाय स्टिंग के. स्टिंग से आपको बहुत इजीली पॉपुलैरिटी मिल सकती है, या इजीली आपको दोनों बातें, आप विख्यात भी हो सकते हैं, आप कुख्यात भी हो सकते हैं.
Sting journalism in India actually stands at a fork in the road. Yeah, it could end up taking one of two roads. It could take the path of sensationalism, titillation, entertainment. Very frightening. I mean, because it is serious business. Sting journalism is serious business. It can be reduced to entertainment. It could end up taking that road, or it could take the high road to public interest. If it takes the high road, then it's a force of great public good.
In many parts of the world, parents have been and continue to remain concerned about the impact that television programs have on children and the youth. India is no different.
Rakhi Sawant was shown so much on news that I was so uncomfortable watching TV with my parents. Is this what breaking news is?
TV news is focused more on India and India's events, the minuscule events rather than on the world.
पागल समझ के रखा है क्या, कुछ भी दिखाते रहते हैं.
I think TV news rocks because when we when we sit down to watch a channel today, we feel very excited. We don't feel bored. In the time of Doordarshan, we used to feel bored, and I would never watch TV. News. My parents would coax me to watch it, but now I watch it on my own. So it rocks like anything.
I think media and the news agencies that report, whether in the television or in print, need to exercise more of social responsibility. Young minds do get impacted. When they show all these raw footage and when they show all their exposés, to an extent they breed cynicism. And if the younger generation becomes cynical, then our future is very bleak.
If you expose the society to crime and violence too much, it brutalizes the consciousness. Soon we will become indifferent to news about rape or murder or dacoity or kidnapping because it is too much to take. On the other hand, it also makes us immune. On the one hand, brutalization, on the other hand, immunization.
Even if television broadcasters claim that their programs reflect reality and that they provide what the public wants, few channels have conducted detailed research on what their viewers consider relevant and important.
There should be a scientific kind of approach to get the feedback from the viewers as to what do they think of their news bulletins. What is it that they like? What is it that they don't like? What is it that they would like to be expanded? What is it that they would like to be totally eliminated? These are serious questions that should be raised by the viewers forum as well as also taken seriously by the TV news channels.
In the age of the internet, television channels have become more and more interactive. Opinion polls are conducted by the hour. Citizens journalism is a new fad.
इस समय हमारे पास व्यूअर्स की तरफ से इतनी सूचनाएं आती हैं और इतनी शिकायतें आती हैं, वो पहले नहीं आती थी, क्योंकि व्यूअर को मालूम है कि अगर वो अपनी शिकायत भेजता है या अपनी किसी समस्या को न्यूज़ चैनल को बताता है, न्यूज़ चैनल आ गया, उसका हस्तक्षेप हो गया, तो जल्दी से जल्दी वो समस्या भी सुलझ जाती है।
Broadcasters need not just viewers but advertisers for their revenue in order to survive, if not prosper. Any attempt by the government to control what goes on air is typically decried as attempts to censor and inhibit freedom of expression. Who should act as the ombudsman, as a responsible regulator of content? The government? An independent body of media professionals? Should this body include television producers and broadcasters? Who decides who should represent civil society? There is no consensus on these touchy issues.
I don't really think that news should be subjected to any kind of censorship. Absolutely not.
I think India needs a regulatory authority of some kind. I am not one of those who now believes in self-regulation alone. It cannot be of the kind that is being envisaged, where the government will effectively become a censoring body.
In the print media, you have a press council, you have an editors guild, which decide. I think it's time television channels had a similar kind of body, which will be self-regulatory, rather than the government stepping in.
Who's to say who's right and who's wrong? Now, NDTV may believe that this is the code which should be followed. Another person or another organization or another channel may feel that that's not the code that should be followed. Who am I to say that my view is correct and your view is wrong?
TV news has become so completely flippant and frivolous because the TRP ratings decide today what is news and not what is newsworthy.
All the channels are repeating same news, same scenes, same cuttings and all those.
Quantity of news has increased, but the quality of news has not come out.
We got about, as you said, 36 channels, but it is new. Give us a break. We're just barely 10 years old. It has to evolve. It'll take some time. But we're getting there. A lot of print people are getting into television, and I think in about 2 to 3 years you'll have what is a fairly credible kind of news channel.
As Indian society develops, it is certain that the country's media will expand and competition is likely to further intensify. And independent media is the backbone of a democratic society. Television news too reflects and represents the diversity and plurality of India. The media has assisted in the administration of justice. The misdeeds of the powerful have been exposed. The media is all-pervasive. Those in positions of influence and authority have become watchful and wary of the media. At the same time, as television channels battle for our eyeballs, we as viewers need to become more critical and careful about what we watch. That remote in our hand is an important weapon against bad television. We don't need to consume all that is dished out to us. The choice is yours. The choice is ours.